you hear some of my friends in the other team talking about political violence and how it's necessary. The MAGA Republicans don't just threaten our personal rights and economic security. They're a threat to our very democracy. They refuse to accept the will of the people. They embrace political violence. They don't believe in democracy. No one should be encouraged to use political violence.
Remember, this is the folks who supported the BLM folks. Just remember. But it's not just the president. Here's the White House press secretary.
The president has been really clear that congressional Republicans, that extreme MAGA agenda that you heard him talk about last week, is a threat to the rule of law.
You know, that's a very different message that when he had former President Trump was in office. Take a look.
The press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish. They asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman? And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Meanwhile, as we said off the top, a district court judge has declined to rule on former President Trump's request to appoint a special master to review documents that the FBI seized from Mar-a-Lago. This as Trump argued in a court filing yesterday that the classified materials found at Mar-a-Lago should not have been cause for alarm because he claims they were his presidential records. We are also learning that one of Trump's lawyers searched his Palm Beach estate and his estate in Bedminster, New Jersey, 6 days before the Justice Department subpoenaed Trump to recover documents for New York Attorney General Letitia James on a separate matter, telling a New York State court in May that Trump approved the search himself. For more on this, let's welcome in that attorney, Alina Habba. Alina, good to see you. Tell me what you make of the ruling or the lack of ruling today.
I think it's pretty typical, to be honest. I think there's a lot of pressure and eyes on this one, obviously. So a judge wants to make sure that they hear oral argument and take into account everything that is heard, go back, meet with the law clerks as is normal course, and then issue a decision off the bench without this public spectacle. So I would hope that we would get something very soon.
Okay, so we shouldn't read too much into it.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. So I want to go back to what I said at the beginning. There are all these reports that regarding this New York case, that there are signed documents saying that that you signed off on this report, saying there were no other documents, and now the government's saying that there are. Can you explain this? Yes,
I am happy to explain this. This is mass confusion by the media, unfortunately, the right and the left-wing media. Okay, so for the New York Attorney General case, which is a completely separate matter, there was a subpoena. I had to look for documents related to that case. I did so, and I did an affidavit for that. I have nothing to do with the NARA search. I was not the attorney on that case. I'm still not the attorney on that case. I am one of President Trump's attorneys, but I don't handle everything, much to, I'm sorry, left-wing media, but this one had nothing to do with the other. So my search was not for classified documents. I didn't deal with any of that. I was strictly working with the Attorney General as to cooperate with their subpoena. And I searched his private residence, as my affidavit says, and I searched his office for the documents that they requested.
Okay, so that's important. So the documents that you were looking for New York State Attorney General Letitia James were not the same documents that are in question for the National Records Administration. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. I think Politico put out this article and it kind of spiraled. But no, they need to check and see that that was for an unrelated case. It's the Attorney General case. It's related to the Trump Organization, his business. It is an investigation as well that has been going on for years, and we've been producing documents. That was done and closed. We had a ruling with the judge with those affidavits. As many people would recall, there were numerous hearings on that. This has absolutely nothing to do with the other. There's a whole different set of attorneys that are dealing with this issue.
So let me ask you this, because in a lot of these same stories, they're trying to, obviously now knowing what you just said, conflate this idea that you were looking for potentially handling classified documents. So if you weren't looking for them and that's not what you're handling, then that seems that that would be a moot issue as well.
Yes, it's a very moot issue. Sorry, guys. We're going to have to move on to the next story. I'm not, I don't have clearance to touch or go through classified documents. You actually have to have clearance to do that if they're classified. These were declassified, is my understanding. But again, I'm not the attorney that was handling this, haven't been. I don't plan on being. There are a team of attorneys that were in Florida today that are dealing with this and have been on this matter since their first reach out with NARA, and then some additional attorneys have been joined that team. But no, my search was for the Attorney General in New York and had nothing to do with classified documents and NARA at all.
All right, so let me go to the nut of what the argument that President Trump's team is trying to make, because. And correct me if I'm wrong, because it seems that initially the argument seemed to be that everybody was working with the Department of Justice and the National Records Administration to get them the documents that they were asking for, right? And it seems as though, at least from my purview, that there was a bit of a shift, which is that the president is now saying, hey, some of these documents were mine. They are my personal documents. Is that the new argument, or am I missing what's going on here?
No, it's confusing, and I understand why it's confusing to the public, and there's a lot of mixed stories. So, you know, there's obviously an affidavit on this case where he had gone through and was working with a different attorney that went and dealt with the DOJ and NARA, and they were going through the documents. And those are Presidential Records Act is basically what covers him on that. And it doesn't really cover him. It's a right of every president to go through documents, declassify them. There's not really a major process. He went through that in the White House, is my understanding, before he left. And they were in the process of going back and forth to see if there was anything they wanted returned to NARA, to the National Archives. And I understood that they had been going back and forth on that. But no, it's the same thing. When you're doing that, you put some as personal, some as presidential records, and then you negotiate back and forth. So you are right on the one issue, which is that this has been ongoing. They were cooperating, as you've seen in exhibits. There was back and forth with the attorneys and the DOJ and NARA. So this was a bit of a surprise, obviously, as you can imagine, for them when the raid happened.
Alina, obviously, this is super helpful to have you here and break it all down. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.